Yes. What had we discussed? Still only 10 participants. The slide is right in front of you. We had discussed database, isn't it? We had discussed how the database, why is it important to have a good database, how the organization and the structuring of data is important, right? That's what we had seen. Because to be able to retrieve data in a short amount of time and also uh, efficiently doing so, you have to have good organization and structure of data, right? And the data includes your application models, designs, drawings, assemblies, alphanumeric information. Examples are bill of materials and text, right? All those counts as data as well. So also graphic software, the things that you have in graphics software such as system commands, function menus, plotter output routines, right? So we had seen how that graphic software, right, has an application program and how that program retrieves the database, right? And this is what we are focusing on about the database. How do you structure that, right? How does it store, right, basic graphic elements, points and other elements, geometry, connectivity of the various components, application specific data, material properties, right? And analysis programs also, FEA, right? Building block approach, right from basic graphic elements up until the most advanced ones, right? And the different ways of we saw that how just one axis and that cylinder line, if we are able to store that, then that data record will not include the uh, solid data, isn't it? Solid cylinder data. So can be used for display purposes, but cannot be used for interference checking, or all those places where you require that solid model to be there. You cannot use that. That's what we saw. And then we had seen how this database, this graph based model, is a one way of storing that data. Taking the example of a tetrahedron, right? The top one you see, we had seen that a tetrahedron has four faces, right? Three faces you can see in this image, right? And one face is at the bottom. So how those four faces, how that data is kept, like for this one solid has four faces, isn't it? As we had seen, and each phase have some edges and vertices. So we are taking from vertices, right? Four vertices, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? A, B, C, and D. And each edge will have two vertices. So we are mapping the edges with the vertices. Like for example, the edge F. We see the edge F has what vertices? This is F. What does it has as vertex? D and B. So this F is mapped to D and also B. So that's how edges are mapped to vertices. Okay, and then these edges are mapped to faces, because each face, for example, this white face you're seeing, this is one face, has how many? Three edges, right? Each face has three edges. So for example, if we take this, we haven't named the faces, we should have named it so that we can write it here. But let's say this, or maybe this. Okay, we have A, B, and C. A, B, and C. A is here, B is there, and C is here. So it's this a very fine hatch that you're seeing at the bottom. It is this phase which is being represented here. Okay, so that's how data is stored. This is what we want to emphasize, how data is stored, right? This is one way of doing it. Graph-based modeling is what we call. Graph-based model is what you're seeing, isn't it? That's what we saw. This is done. Yes. When I asked you to summarize, that is why I asked you to summarize, because I was not sure we ended. Yes, we ended here, right? Now I got it. We ended it here. We saw the operations and then we ended here. Anyway, so this is clear, right? Anyone has any doubts regarding this? Graph-based model. No. Okay. So another one is Boolean modeling. Okay. So it has that Boolean modeling has Boolean operations. These three operations that you're seeing: union, subtract, and intersection. Okay. So those are used to construct the geometric model. Union, as we know, it tries to take up the whole, okay, of the two components. Subtract will subtract from one component from the other. Okay. If this is A, this is B, A minus B will try to subtract B from A. Okay. And vice versa, B minus A. So intersection has the common part, right? As we say intersect, the common part that is there between two bodies will come under intersection part. So those are your Boolean operations. And those operations you see here, another simple example. This is A and this is B, let's say. We are trying to unite these bodies. So union will result like this. Okay. Subtraction, we are trying to subtract this body from this body. So this body, whichever part is common, okay, whichever part is intersecting with this body, we'll try to remove that, subtract it, right? And intersection is the common part. What we had subtracted here is nothing but the intersection part, right? Which is common to both these bodies. The region or the the region which is common to both bodies will come under intersect. Clear? Clear, right? Boolean operations. And then you have Boolean modeling. Okay. What we saw here was a simple case, right? Now you see here how we are constructing this. Let's call it a block. Okay. Let's call it a block. Okay. How we are constructing this block. Okay. With the help of this Boolean tree, let's call it a tree. Okay. So starts from here. Okay. So we are trying to take this body. Yes. Starts with here, trying to unite it with this body. The union of these results in that, isn't it? This face will come and attach here. Okay. The axis. Okay. The axis of this body and the axis of this body, which is here, exactly in the middle. Okay. Here also in the middle. So it will come and attach, right? That's how we are able to get that final body. The axis, we are trying to make them coincident. Okay. Collinear. Okay. So that is there. Is that clear how that was formed? Because that's how it'll keep on moving. Clear, right? How we are able to form this solid union of these two. Okay. Okay. And then and then you have you have this body, final body, and then comes this isn't intersection. Okay. This has to be minus. Okay. This has to be subtraction, because if we take intersection, then only this part will remain. This part should have come here. Okay. Instead of this, instead of this part, we would have got this as a final result if it was intersection. Okay, this is not intersection, this is minus, subtraction. Subtraction is what we are doing here, because this body, okay, we are trying to remove this region from this body. So it's exactly in the middle. If you remove that, this will be formed. Clear? That this is subtraction. Okay. That's how we are able to get this final body. Okay. And then union with this. Okay. This is our body that is coming from there. Union with this will result here. Okay. Because the central axis, we are trying to make them coincident. Okay. This comes and attach here. So you get this body. Right? After this, now you have union with this body. Okay, this body, as we know, as I told you, right, each assembly will have sub assemblies, right? So to get this body, you had a different tree altogether. Okay, just as you had for this component to be created, you had this tree, right? This tree gave this component, right? And similarly, this tree gave that component. Okay, shall I take it of another color, or is it clear? I should separate it better. This is one tree. This gave rise. Okay, I should take only this, right? Yes, this gave rise to this body that you're seeing here. Okay, and this is the model tree for this one. Okay, and what else? Yes, another one here. Let's take it of green color. This tree gave this body. Clear? Or any doubts in here? Because if you understand this, then it will be solved. No doubts. Okay. So you see, we were here, and then how this component was formed. You had this tapered rod here. Okay, that union with this one. Okay, yes, to create that hole, this body had to intersect with this, or actually minus, subtraction. This body, this middle, what do you call, cylinder. Okay, this cylinder had to be subtracted from this body to be able to create that hollow one, right? And that hollow one in union with this gave rise to this. Okay, that's how you were able to get that. Okay, this was formed. Okay, and then this body union with this formed body. When you give a union, so it comes at an angle. Okay, so that also has to be specified in the software, right? At what angle do you want it to be? But there is essentially a union operation going on. So that gave rise to this. And intersection with this body. How was this body formed? You have this cylinder, right? And then you had this body. Okay, union of these two gave this, but then this slit was intersected. You can see here there's an intersection. Okay, so intersection of this will give us this. So these three, in total we had two operations there. One union, these two, and after that intersection with this, or basically subtraction. Subtraction. So that was formed. You can see that slot, and then these two union will give us that. Basically trying to cut this part. You see here, We're trying to cut it here, and then that slot, that will go all the way through. This is what this is doing. Intersection, actually minus, not intersection again. Okay, so that's how you are able to get that material out of that component. Okay, is that clear? Boolean modeling. Clear. Okay. Okay, so that's how that tree is made. Okay, so this is one way of doing that. Boolean modeling is what we call it. That's how the software stores the data. Okay, and no doubts, right? Because we are moving on to CAM. Okay, that was about the database. Now we are moving on to CAM. If you have any doubts, you can ask or mention in the chat box. Okay, so now you have CAM. Okay, as we had discussed in the introduction, the first part of the unit, we had discussed in current trends, CAM also, CAD, CAM, SIM, right? CAM stands for computer aided manufacturing, right? So to be able to do that, we are utilizing CNC technology, right? So computer numerical control, that's what that stands for. Okay, CNC, computer numerical control, is an NC system that utilizes a dedicated stored program computer to perform some or all of the basic numerical control functions. So basically what you have is an NC system. We are going to discuss in the second unit. Okay, numerical control, NC machines. So before CNC, we had NC machines. Okay, basic difference was NC machines had input as punch tapes. Okay, those punch tapes were having the instructions, basically you can say, about what is to be done. But instead of that, in CNC we have programs being fed. Okay, everything else is same. The input that you are giving is punch tape in NC system. In here, even if you're giving a punch tape, you are now going to convert it to a part program. Okay, so that you can retrieve that again. That's the advantage of CNC technology. Okay, so computer numerical control is an NC system, utilizes a dedicated stored program computer to perform some or all of the basic numerical control functions. Okay, using those control instructions. Okay, CNC involves the replacement of the conventional hardwired NC control unit by a small computer, which we call mini computer, okay, or microcomputer. So how we are able to replace that with that? We had hardwired NC controller. Okay, now you have basically a mini computer. Okay, because it executes the instructions, right? And one of the distinguishing features of CNC is that one computer is used to control one machine tool. Okay, in CNC, you're going to see the different classifications. Okay, in CNC, you have only one computer, one dedicated computer for controlling one machine tool. Okay, instructions are delivered to the CNC machine in the form of a sequential program of machine control instructions, such as G code and M code, then executed. Okay, so we had seen in the lab, right, that the different G codes and M codes that you have. So for different, like for example, linear interpolation, circular interpolation, right, to be able to move, for the tool to move either linearly, okay, or in a circular fashion, so clockwise or counterclockwise. So all of that will be specified with the help of G codes. You have G00, G01, G02, right? And then you have M codes, miscellaneous codes. G codes are called preparatory codes. M codes are called miscellaneous codes. So all of those serve as the control instructions, basically. So sequential, because we are trying to do it sequentially. Okay, firstly the spindle should start and then it should move with so and so speed. Okay, it should the rotation we are specifying rotations per minute RPM, and then the feed, or if there is a coolant, you have to turn on the coolant. So that's a sequential program. The program can be written by a person or far more often generated by graphical computer-aided design software and or computer-aided manufacturing software. So you see, I told you that there is manual part programming, right? That you write the code as per the drawing sheet that you have. Another one is we had dedicated CAM softwares, right? Like Mastercam. So those are used for writing that code. Okay. And the X, Y, and Z axis control the movement of the cutter on a 3D CNC machine. I'll show you that machine. Okay. So basically you have 3 axes to be controlled. Okay. Because in any machine, if we are trying to process a part, we'll take some standard convention. For example, this is the X, okay, Z is the depth of cut, Y is the vertical movement, like that. So to be able for the tool to be moved in that direction, you have to have those coordinates specified, right? Those axes specified. So X, Y, and Z axis control the movement of the cutter on a 3D CNC machine. This allows materials to be machined in 3 directions, 3D manufacture. The cutter is instructed to go from one coordinate to another. So even in this, you have different classifications, right? We'll see that the concept of CNC is there in the second unit as well. How, what are the different methods we have, okay, for the cutter to move? Like you could actually have a point-to-point system, okay, wherein you are specifying one point axis. Yes. So let me annotate. Like for example, you can specify one point and another point, right? Or and this point. So you are specifying in the part program, you're specifying just points. Okay, this point and that point and this point, and the cutter will firstly come here and then go there, right? And then go there, like that. So this is point to point. Another way, and in here, important thing to mention that the speed at which the cutter is moving is not important. Okay, because we only want the cutter to be there at those coordinates. That's the end result, right? And whatever operation that is to be performed will be performed there. Okay, drilling or maybe some boring, let's say. So the velocity with which the tool travels is not important in point-to-point system. In contouring systems, you have a path to follow. Okay, for example, if you have a complicated, like for example, we had this this example here, right? This one, for example, if I want to have this profile, the CNC, that tool should move in this fashion, right, to be able to have that geometry. So it has to follow a path. So that's where you go for contour interpolation. Okay, so that is there. So you specify all this in the part program, okay, to be fed to the CNC. This technology can be used to perform a range of complex processes, including grinding, milling, punching, turning, etc. So not just turning, we have different machines, right? One for turning, for example, in our lab, we have one dedicated machine for turning itself, right? XL turn and then XL mill. So you have grinding machines, right? All of these come under the CNC category itself. Okay, because you have computerized numerical control. That is what is being done, right? Punching, etc. CNC machining revolutionized the industry in the 1960s and is the dominant method of machining today also. Okay, As I told you, we had numerical control machines, NC machines, and then we had a dedicated microcomputer for it, mini computer for it, and also the method of input of the program has also changed. The reason, anyone knows the reason why that was changed? Why we did not have, why we did not continue with NC? Why that punch tape was a problem? Precision and manpower. No, as for precision, okay, but even with that, uh, there's not much about precision, okay, in here. As for CNC and NC, yes, there are different axes. Now you have 5-axis machines, etc. But okay, okay, but the main reason, okay, why we did not went for CNC, we did not continue with CNC, was that the method of input of the program was how? Punch tapes, right? So punch tapes, the problem with that is you have to have a different tape if you want to change the product geometry, right? So that was the problem every time. And also those were delicate, right? Tapes, to be able to carry those physical tapes, punch tapes, that is a problem, right? To be able to store them, and any change in the geometry will lead to a change in the tape, so you have to have a modification there, and that was very difficult to do. So instead of that, we went for part programming. So once even if you're using a tape initially to be fed to the CNC machine, after that insertion of the tape, you will store that as a part program so that you can modify that later. And now you no longer need that tape, initial tape. Okay, so that retrieval feature is there, right? You can retrieve the program, change it, right? That benefit is there, okay, in that punch tapes, uh, that you can store the program, and then that tape is no longer needed. You can modify the program if at all you are using the tape, okay? And then another reason is, um, yes, and as and when the computer technology has evolved, we now have more precise, as he was mentioning, in terms of axis. For example, you have more 5-axis machines, right, to be able to cut contour geometries. Like for example, if you had seen a turbine, you see, I'll try to show you one video, hopefully, of a turbine blade being manufactured using that CNC, how difficult that is, and why it requires that different axis, okay, multi-axis machine. Clear? Or do we have doubts? Because we discuss a lot in this slide, right? No, okay. So that was about and elements of a CNC system. Okay, a CNC system consists of the following 6 major components. Okay, you have, one is the input device. Okay, machine control unit, machine tool. We'll see that in the, yes, here. You see, this is our machine tool, right? And the first what we saw was input device. Okay, like as I told you, the input we are using is part programs, right? So to be able to get that to the controller unit, okay, so once that is done, then What is the next one? Machine control unit. Yes. So that has, you can call it the CPU of the system. Okay. It controls it. It has the data processing unit, control loop unit. Okay. And what else do we have? Machine tool. Yes. Driving system. Machine tool is this one. Okay. The one which actually does the process. Okay. Driving system. How that spindle is able to achieve that speed. Okay. How that spindle is being turned, basically. Where do you get the power from? You need to have a driving system, right? So in conventional lathes, we had an electric motor that was driving the through the gate system. That chuck was being driven, right? So that's how we were able to rotate the work part, isn't it? So in here you will have servo motors, okay, to drive that chuck. In here what you're seeing is basically this is a vertical machine. Okay, so the spindle will move, what you can say, how should I put it? Have you seen a drilling machine? This is exactly that. A vertical drilling machine is working, or vertical milling machine, but this is vertical, to be clear. Okay, so how does that spindle achieve? Uh, how does that spindle runs? You need to have a driving system, right? Servo motors is what is usually used in CNC machines. So that is under the control of this machine control unit. How much speed should the spindle move? Okay, at what speed should it move? It's to be specified by the motion data from the part program. Okay, so the controller decides that. Another thing is driving system feedback devices. Okay, here. Okay, once let's say you have given the motion data to the driving system that the spindle should move at let's say 1000 rpm, for example. So once that those instructions are given and the spindle is starts moving, then the feedback device, which could be a sensor, okay, or it could be a what do you call that, shaft decoder is also there, but let's stick to a sensor. Okay, that sensor will detect the speed with which the spindle is moving, and it will give a feedback. Okay, so that feedback is there. For example, here you have velocity feedback and position feedback also. At what position is the tool? Okay, at what position is the tool currently? Because for the control unit to decide how much to move, it should know the initial positions of the machine, right? And then when it gives the instruction, let move 20 mm in the z direction, like for example down. Okay, generally z axis is what is the axis that is z axis, the parallel is the axis that is parallel to the spindle. Okay, the spindle axis, we can say the spindle axis is the z axis. So plus or minus is there. So that if it says 20 mm to move down, now there will be a feedback device which will see whether it has moved 20 or not. That's what feedback means, right? So that data is sent. The velocity feedback, the position feedback is sent to the control unit. And then the control unit decides whether that was what was intended or not. If 20 mm was written in the part program, and it gave the instruction to the driving system, that servo motor, to move, okay, that particular axis. And not, you see, in the driving system, it's not just one motor that is driving it. For each axis you have a different motor, right? To be able to move in this axis, you have to have a dedicated motor, right? To be able to move like this, you have to have a dedicated motor, X, Y, and Z. Okay, the more axis you have, the more motors that you need, isn't it? So that's how. And there are combinations as well, isn't it? So if you want to move like this, let me give you an example. If you want to move like this, okay, from this point to that point, not just point, you're following a path. Okay, you're following a path. So to be able to move from 1 to 2, you see, it involves two axes. If you observe, let me draw it in another color. It involves two axes, right? X and let's say Y. Okay, so there are two motors involved here. X has the motor X has to move and the motor Y has to move, and there has to be coordination between the two, which will be decided by the machine control unit. How much should X move? Okay, in this time. Okay, let's say for in 1 millisecond, X should move this much and Y should move this much. Apparently, you can see Y is the what you can say. The rate at which Y is moving is more than the X, isn't it? So Y motor has to move a little faster. How much faster has to be decided by the control unit. Okay, that's what it does. That data processing unit decides how much speed should be given to the Y-axis motor, Y-axis servo motor, and how much